Hello YouTube, my name is Rylan and I'm going to be teaching you the basics of chess. So as you see here, there are 64 pieces on the board, and in each way, aka vertical and horizontal, there are four brown and 4 white squares. But it depends on the board you're playing. The brown can be replaced by green in some, and brown can be replaced by black, which is most commonly used. So now, I will teach you what each piece is called. So this piece looks like it has a half circle with 2 circles attached on top. That is called a pawn, and it protects the inner pieces, which are called the minor and major pieces. We will get into that later after I explain to you what the pawns are. So a pawn can move like this only at the beginning, but after the beginning, it only moves one step. So now let me show you. See, there you can't go 2 steps because the pawn is blocking you, and also because you can't go sooner in the game. Let me give you another example with a different pawn. Now let me just move one of my pieces here. See, and now we can't go 2 spaces. Now I'll explain to you how a pawn can capture a piece. So let's say the opponent makes a bad move. Now what you want to do, a pawn can only capture diagonal. So the knight is free to capture. So you capture it. And then you're winning. So now we're going to be talking about the knight. The knight, also called the horse, moves in an L shape. So it can move 2 squares in front and 1 square to the right, or 1 square to the left, and it depends. It can be very tricky to use a knight, but once you have it, you can obviously do a very tricky smothered mate, which can be easily referred to which means you trap your king and checkmate him with the knight or another piece. You can also checkmate him once he castled, which I'll talk about in an intermediate video. So now the knight moves like this. And then you don't want to ever get your knight on the side of the square unless it's important and you're forking your king. You're forking another opponent. Sorry, I'm stuttering. Okay, so the knight can obviously, after that, move here. It can move here, which is a very bad move, because you can take the knight like that. But yeah, and now the bishop. As you just saw, the bishop moves diagonally. It can move any square diagonal as long as it's diagonal. So look, you can even capture that pawn, but it's a bad move because again, you can take it. So the bishop, which is also my favorite piece, can be used for battery, which is technically when one of your pieces and another piece operate together to form a long distance pin or to checkmate your opponent. So I can make a battery like right over here with my bishop and queen. My queen can go over here and become very powerful. My queen can go to one of the squares where my bishop is attacking. So therefore the king cannot take my queen, because then my bishop will check the king. Now we're going to be talking about the rook. So right here, the rook can move horizontal or vertical, any squares, as long as it's horizontal and vertical. So it can move here, but the other rook can take and the knight can take. It can move in a lot of places, but I recommend not to lose your rook very early on, unless it's a rook trade, because a rook is a major piece, which is important for endgame, which I'll speak about in an intermediate video. Now, we gotta talk about the main piece, the king, and after that we'll talk about the queen. So the king can move any direction, but only one square. Assume he is an old grandpa, but if all your pieces are developed on either side of the king, he can castle, which I'll talk about in an intermediate video, as I said. So, king can move like that. However, he can't move in check, and that's a check. He can take a piece if it's undefended, but if it's defended, he can't. So, now we'll talk about the queen. Queen can move any direction except the knight, L shape, just like the king. The queen moves like that. It could even the queen is important because you can capture pieces very easily. So now let me say I can use one of the openings, which is called the queen's pawn opening. And then they use king's pawn. Or actually, so white uses king's pawn, while queen uses queen's pawn. So when the king pawn takes, the queen can take back. However, the knight can come over here, and it's a very good move because you're both developing a piece and attacking the queen. But the queen can still recover. This is called the Scandinavian defense, which Magnus Carlsen, aka one of the greatest chess players ever, uses this opening. But this move is pretty tricky because now your queen is in a pretty tight spot. But if you're a great chess player, you can get out of it. Now I will show you material. So material is based on a piece's worth. Say, if you make a pawn, then this guy will make his knight. Now you're going to try to get the knight while obviously defending the pawn. So you're going to want to either do this move and defend the pawn, or attack the knight with one of your pieces, which you can't do right now. But I recommend defend the pawn because the center pawn can be very critical in early game. So now he will make a move like that, which double threats, and if you take, he will take back and have more center control. But if you take, he's gonna take, and then you can't attack your queen. You can't attack his queen because your knight is gone. But you can use the C pawn and you'll have to retreat because your bishop is defending it. So say that is equal material. It's 4. So the knight is 3 points, just like the bishop. The pawn is 1 point, but it could be worse. It could be less if it's on the sides of the board. So, say black blunders and makes a terrible move like that, and you take his queen. Queens are worth 9 points. That is a lot. It could cost your opponent the whole game. Who knows? But say you make a mistake and move your queen there. Well, that's not really a mistake, but you move your queen, you move your pawn over, you move your knight over here. Then he will take your pawn, which is already, as I said, 1 point. Now we'll talk about rooks. Rooks are 5 points. 5, as it says in the top right. 5 points. Not as special as a queen, but it's still very good, and 2 rooks are better than 1 queen. Should always know that. Now we're going to talk about the last part, which is the king. If your king is under attack and there's no way to escape, then that's the whole game costed. Now, I still have more things to talk about, so I'll make a part 2 to this video. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed my chess tutorial, you can subscribe and comment down below which piece is your favorite. See you guys in the next one.